Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Ronnie Rock from Ugratone, and the day is finally arrived when the faster and louder drums is finally here. And today we're going to explore what's inside the faster and louder drums. So a little bit of a background here. Faster and louder drums was captured at the Mercinary Studios in Avon, Ohio, which is a very blue-collar neighborhood in the outskirts of Cleveland. And it was recorded by such guys by the name of Vanik. You might have seen his crazy on-stage antics for the band Midnight. He also does brilliant solo stuff under the name Vanik. Very cool stuff if you're into more traditional heavy metal. Awesome dude. Was a definite blast to work with him, as well as the studio's jack of all trades, Noah Buchanan, who in my books is definitely one of the most experienced engineers that I've ever had a chance to work with. His chops and editing and just organizing the session is and it's done. So kudos to Noah, you're the man. So faster and louder drums is a fairly simple, straightforward capture of a vintage heavy metal, punk, hardcore, rock. It leans a little bit more to the vintage late 70s, early 80s kind of style, but it's an extremely versatile package, and you can certainly use it however you wish. Before I'm going to yap away any more, I'm just going to play you a short clip of faster and louder drums in action. All right, so very 70s vintage rock kind of feel to it. Toms have a lot of depth to it, and they're kind of softer in a vintagey way, but still powerful enough to fit into a more modern metal mix. I've loaded the Gretsch kit because I think that's a pretty good starting point, and for the faster and louder drums. And a little bit about the GUI. This is actually a 3D render or remake of what we actually saw at the Mercenary Studios. When if you ever have a chance to go record there, this is basically what it looks like. It feels like you're in a heavy metal venue when you're recording. So instead of looking all acoustic and all, it still sounds very good, but they've definitely gone with the more of a rehearsal space kind of venue look for the studio, and sounds are amazing, looks very real. Features four full drum sets. We had an amazing weekend, and we drove the drummer Ryan a bit crazy, because when you're capturing drum samples, it's not the same as just like you go to a studio and you get to play all these cool songs. It's actually a bit more tedious than that. But 4 full drum sets. There's the Gretsch kit, which is currently loaded. Then there's a Pearl kit, which has 2 bass drum variations, one with the more muffled and one with the more open sounding bass drum. Then there's Ryan's Ludwig, the Green Sparkle kit, which is where the graphics kind of came into the play. And then we also captured Athenar's Slingerland kit, which has been featured on quite a few midnight albums. So there's a little piece of Ohio metal history in this. And I'm just going to play this clip one more time, and then we're going to start deconstructing what's actually inside here. All right, so to me, sounds extremely natural. You know, the cymbals, they're all peisty. If you want to see this from the angle of an E drummer, there's another video where I did the rundown, so I'm not going to go any further. All cymbals by peisty, different kicks, different different, just a whole lot of different pieces. Let's switch the snare into, I'm just going to go through some highlights. The Blackwood Custom Drums 6, which I believe is a lower tuned one. You know, Ryan Steigerwald, the drummer for Midnight and Unholy Swarm, formerly in the band you might have heard of called Ringworm. He had a really good selection of snares and the kits, and also Joe Lowry, the drummer for Nunslaughter, dropped by and captured some of his stuff as well. Let's try the Blackwood snare and see. Very low. It's hard to find a very low tuned snare in a virtual sample library these days. But faster and louder drums certainly excels in the lower tuned snares. Then we have the Blackwood Custom, which is tuned high. I believe this is a different snare, but it's a whole lot of attack. That would be really good for anything. I believe that's in the preset called Aggro Hardcore. Just cuts through, you know, has that cool, majestic smack, as I would like to call it. Then let's move on to Gretsch Hammered Brass. And this is the store kit for the Gretsch, for the preset Gretsch kit. So again, you know, nice kind of vintagey. Reminds me of the Bob Seger album Against the Wind. It has a very similar kind of a lower pitch. Then there's a Gretsch High, which is more of if anyone remembers a Hatebreed album, Satisfaction is the Death of Desire. Very typewritery. So there you can hear it, like, just by changing the snare, it changes the aesthetic of the kit greatly. Then Gretsch Low, you know, we captured so many pieces during that weekend that I can't confirm nor deny if this is the same snare, but Gretsch Low, so I'm assuming this is the same snare, just tuned lower. A very good all around snare. You know, you can use that for metal, for rock, for country. You know, anything fast or slow, fills a lot of space. You know, very thick sounding snare. Let's move on to the Ludwig Universal. This was one of Joe Lowry's snares that he brought in, and you know, he's a death metal drummer, so this is definitely a death metal snare. Yeah, it's got that. I would use that on anything faster, death metal, you know, or something like funk, you know, all that cool stuff. Then there is a Pearl Prestige session, which is the default snare for the Pearl Flows kit. Another very warm 80s kind of vintage snare. Very nice. Then the Slingerland snare, which you have heard on, if you've been listening to Midnight, or at least their a couple of their later albums. This was the snare on some of them, or at least so I've been told. So nice. You can definitely hear the age of the snare drum in there. It makes it darker, but because of that, your tuning range kind of changes, and you can do stuff that you can do with a brand new snare. So Slingerland for all those, it's a good snare for all those vintage jams. Then the last but not least is a Yamaha Oak 5x12. I believe this was definitely one of Joe's snares. Very death metal. So that's, to me, that's a straight up skate punk snare. If you want to put it, the snare just really just slaps in your face, very dry, sustain very short. You might need a snare like that, and Faster and Louder Drums has it. So I'm going to switch the snare back to something a bit more, I'm going to use the Gretsch Low, because I think this is a pretty good meet me in the middle kind of snare. So you've heard the Gretsch kick so far. I'm actually just going to switch the entire kit to the Ludwig, and we're going to go from there. All right, so we've got the Ludwig kit loaded up, but that's the Ludwig kick. That is the rack tom, and that is the floor tom. So this is a 3-piece set, but it's easy. What I did for the presets, I replaced, because we captured a set of roto toms. So the first 3 toms are rotos, and then you get the Ludwig. So let's play the same clip with the Ludwig kit. Or let's move on to a section that has toms in there. So when you have just the rack tom and the floor tom, and then some special toms, you can kind of make the range of toms from extremely high to extremely low. So, and you can mix and match, the roto tom. So if you just want to have the top roto tom and the rest of the set, like for normal toms, you can certainly do that. But yeah, the Ludwig kit kind of shows its age. It sounds a little darker, it's a bit more weighty. It moves a little bit, opens up a little bit slower. but it just sounds very majestic. I know I keep using the word majestic a lot here, but it's a powerful word, to describe drums. Let's switch this over to the Slingerland kit. So this is the same thing. Slingerland only has rack tom and floor tom, so it's a 3-piece set. Let's do the same thing here. So Slingerland, it sounds a bit jazzier, but at the same time, it sounds thicker. It's hard to explain what that does, But like older drums, they're kind of these wild card things where you never really know where you can use it, or their use can go way beyond what you thought they would be capable of. So very, very punchy, and the kick especially, like, it just cuts through everything. I'm gonna switch this back to the Pearl kit. I've got the Pearl kit loaded up with the closed kick, so I'll do two different parts where let's go through the. So I think the Pearl kit is probably the more modern sounding out of the bunch. Yeah, it's got a bit more attack and sustain, or the feel to it it's a bit more modern, without it sounding like too modern. Like it's still a pretty old school sound to me. So that was a closed kick. Let's move on to the open. So if you're a fan, this could go two ways. You absolutely hate that basketball sounding kick, or you love it. It's the same to the ring with the snare. Some guys love it. Some people just can't stand it. I find uses for both, and but here's what it sounds like with the open kick. I feel the top end opens up a lot more in the open kick, but at the same time, the natural transient kind of changes, and the tone really changes. So you might have to EQ a little less with an open kick like that, but you also kind of get the frequencies that you might not want with that. So. But you have two options, for 5 different kicks to choose from, a lot of different snares, rototoms, 4 full drum sets, essentially, and some really fine cymbals by Paiste. When Ryan brought in the Paiste cymbals, I knew we were going to get some good stuff, because that's what we use at Ugertone when we record our own stuff. Every time we've used Paiste cymbals, the results are always better, because you don't have to carve anything out of the overheads, and therefore take something away from the shells, so Paiste cymbals really sit well, and they work for what we do. Paiste cymbals work the best. And then we can move on to the overheads in the room. So play the same clip. Here's overhead solo. And then if you want to make it sound more vintagey, or bring up the energy. A whole lot of energy. Okay, energy. A lot of energy. So overheads, backbone of the drum set, you take overheads away, or actually if you just use so this is just the direct samples. It can work. Dial in the overheads. Sounds a lot better already. And then let's move on to the room, which I think it's not the most magical sounding drum room ever, but it's got some real aggro. I think this might be the secret weapon of Mercenary Studios, the drum room. Same thing. Take away the room, something's missing. Increase the room. So yeah, this Faster and Louder Drums takes these two channels, overhead and room, very well. So you can go crazy with those two channels, and nothing sounds out of phase, so it's kind of get a free pass and really experiment with the overheads and the rooms without having to worry about phasing. Then we also have a trash channel, which is just a very basic plate reverb. Take it away, and some of the magic is gone. For a dryer, just leave it as is. And then last but not least, we've got the Hell channel, which is basically just these close mics being sent through various compressors and hardware preamps and just kind of compressed to not like too squash, but all the way up. But if you leave it out, yeah, I mean, if you want to go louder and turn all these four up, hey, it's all good. No one's gonna die. I think, faster and louder drums. That's what it is, man. Yeah, overheads, Hell, trash. It's all in there. Who would I recommend this package to? If you just want natural sounding drums, just a starting point, regardless of what your end product is. It's heavy metal, punk, hardcore, rock. It could work for country, but it could also work for modern metal. It's this is essentially what drums sound like when you first mic them up. They don't sound like the drums you hear on records. Those are a little bit more processed. But or if you just want to learn raw drums, this is like Noah says in the video. This is exactly what we heard on in the control room when Ryan was playing. This is a very authentic replication of it's a snapshot of what was actually captured in that studio at that time. And if you want to learn drums, or if you just want to find an easy solution to get an instant classic heavy metal sound, faster and louder drums might be worth your time. And yeah, this has been Faster and Louder Drums, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. FLD, aka Faster and Louder Drums, is out now. You can go check it out in the link below, and I will see you guys later.